Speaking of cool, Ross Dellinger joins us. Ross, how about this? Number 2 plays number 3 in the Big Ten this week. It's going to be an awesome weekend.
Oh, amazing. I'm looking forward to the trip out to Eugene. Let me correct myself. I'm not looking forward to the actual trip out to Eugene, but I'm looking forward to being there when I get there, finally. I'm looking forward to the game and the environment there. One of my favorite kind of atmospheres.
We're going to break down that game coming up in a bit. Also, Ross is reporting on some super big news in the world of college sports we'll get to in just a little bit. However, it's time we start off with our big story, which is how good the very top of the Big Ten is right now. The conference has Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State all in the top 5 rankings, 2, 3, 4 respectively. First time ever the league has had 3 teams ranked in the AP top 4. So let's break down what we've learned from these teams at this point through the season, especially from what we learned for those who played in their last game. Ross, Ohio State, there are plenty of stats to pick out. Here's my favorite one. They've won the second half on the season by a combined score of 119-10.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's pretty incredible. You can tell they get better, obviously, as the game goes on. You know, I feel like a broken record. I feel like we say this every week about Jeremiah Smith, but lo and behold, he caught another one-handed catch. You know, had another one-handed catch last week. Just incredible. I wonder if he can make it 3 straight weeks with a one-handed touchdown catch. I don't know that we've ever seen that in college football. It's incredible, but they're 10th in total yards overall. You know, they're breaking 500 yards a game, I think, is the average. You look at statistically, and it's obviously not just Jeremiah, right? Judkins and Henderson at running back each have at least 40 carries, each have at least 300 yards, each have at least 3 touchdowns. It's been really fun to watch them. And the thing that gets overshadowed, Anthony, is their defense, right? 28 points allowed in the last 4 games. So pretty phenomenal stuff as they head to Eugene.
And the way that they're playing defense, especially up front, Ross, it just showcases the physicality that they play the game with. And, you know, all the weapons that they have at wide receiver and the open field talent that's available at running back. Over the last few seasons, when Ohio State hasn't been able to win the last 3 Big Ten titles, when they haven't won the reigning national championship, their arch nemesis in Ann Arbor is the one who's pulled that off. It's because Ohio State hasn't been the most physical team in the Big Ten in those years. This is the most physical squad that Ryan Day has had in any season that he's led things in Columbus for Ohio State. And that, to me, when you combine that with the athleticism, with the weaponry that's available, is why Ohio State, to me, is now the national championship favorite, because we're seeing tangible evidence of that on the field. And as their schedule continues to ramp up, as the opposition continues to become more and more formidable, of course, that opposition is going to be on display this week in Eugene. But we're seeing a Buckeyes outfit that the versatility that they can access is elite in every which way. So that stands out to me. The evolution that Ryan Day has guided this program through, and Jim Knowles adding into the defensive side of things a couple of years back, Chip Kelly on the offensive side of things, we're seeing the most robust attack that Ohio State has been able to throw at anyone they face.
I don't think I've heard you say that before. Say it again. It's the most physical?
Yes, the most physical Ohio State football team that Ryan Day has coached in his time there. And I mean, just to be frank and honest about it, my concern for a couple of years there with the Buckeye program was as much as Ryan Day enhanced the passing attack, the QB play with all the first-round draft picks, and certainly we've seen historically the first-round picks at wide receiver for Ohio State, but the way they've begun to pass the football, it did start to erode the way they operated on the line of scrimmage. Now, this year's squad, on the defensive front, on the offensive line, they now have showcased the ability to bully people. When you can push the Iowa Hawkeyes around, I know well how Iowa prides the line of scrimmage. And situationally, we saw Ohio State able to not just go toe-to-toe, but begin to move the line of scrimmage in their favor against Iowa. It's going to be another tough test this week against the Ducks. There's no doubt about that. But we're seeing a very physical Buckeye squad that also, to Ross's point, has this otherworldly talent on the outside.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like the headlines around Ohio State for months has been the talent, that they're incredibly talented. Either them or Georgia's the most talented team in the country. I think that's really interesting. interesting hearing they're the most physical that they've been yet under Ryan Day. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why their defense, which Ross was talking about, has been so great.
Right.
5 games, 4 touchdowns allowed for the Buckeyes. That's it. Of course, they're taking on Oregon. It's going to be a massive test this weekend, Ross, and it really feels like this huge game we thought it could be at the beginning of the season, though it didn't feel like that after the first 2 weeks. Remember, those first 2 games the Ducks played, Ross, were a little scary. Ever since then, things feel a lot better.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And one of the things, to tie these two things together, we haven't really seen Ohio State play a close fourth quarter game, be on the line, either the game on the line, and see how that team reacts. We have seen that with Oregon a couple of times, as you mentioned, the first 2 games against Boise State in Idaho. We saw really tight fourth quarters there. But guess what? Since those games, Oregon has outscored opponents 114-37. So things have been working well, most notably the running back, Jordan James, right? He's got 100-yard games, I think, in 3 of the last 4 outings, 4 touchdowns. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry. So they've been really getting it done. As Anthony mentioned, Ohio State being physical, they've been getting it done physically at Oregon. And that was a real issue early in the year. The first 2 games, the spotlight was on that offensive line. They were shuffling about, and now they have, it appears, more of a set group, and they are moving the football on the ground. It's been impressive to watch. And they'll obviously face probably certainly their best team, their best defense this week. And like you said, we knew before the season this game should, have everything on the line, sort of be a top 5 kind of matchup. And for it to actually come to fruition is really exciting.
The collision course that they've been on since the preseason, Ross, and it's good to see them each ascending as this game approaches, because to Mike's point, it wasn't necessarily looking like that early in the season. We weren't completely sure what to expect by the time we got to this point halfway through the season, but now here we are. We're seeing Ohio State showcasing the talent and ability they have, and we see the Oregon Ducks doing the same. And specifically to the perspective of Oregon, they've gotten, yes, a lot more physical up front on each line of scrimmage. I did have probably as many concerns about their defensive front for a while as I did about the offensive line, but now there is continuity up front on offense. You see a D-line that's beginning to stuff the run, and they're attacking. You see Oregon right now on defense. They're getting out of the stack and flying to the football. Their front 7 is chasing. They've got a nice rotation that's there. So even when the ball gets into the open field, that's what you need. You need big guys who are willing to chase the football like banshees, and we're seeing the Ducks start to do that. That shows up on film. That impacts the future opponents who are watching the film, trying to figure out where do we have a potential advantage. And when you can showcase the willingness to play that hard that we're seeing from the Ducks on defense right now, then opponents aren't willing to try and attack you in the same manner. So you feel that defense on film in a way that you didn't necessarily feel the Oregon Ducks defense earlier on in the year. And in addition to that physicality, now you do still have the Will Stein eye candy that's there. So now you can be stressed with athleticism, you can be stressed with physicality, you can be stressed just with the fervor that they can attack you with. And so this will be certainly the biggest and best challenge that the Buckeyes have faced so far this season. And it's the right time for Oregon to begin peaking here. And over the last couple of weeks, like Ross mentioned, Jordan James, what we've seen from Tez Johnson, the explosiveness of Oregon's offense wasn't necessarily there early in the year. So even though Dylan Gabriel is now to a point where he's starting to look a little bit human, he's a little bit imperfect as a quarterback, but still elite, still exceptional.
I was going to say, not bad, just literally not 100% passing
setting
anymore.
all these passing records and everything all over the place. But then you also do have the fact that he doesn't need to be as perfect because of the athleticism that Oregon throws at opponents at this point, where Jordan James, they can block it up a little bit, get him into space, and he can go the distance. So now you're seeing that combination from the Ducks.
There's a good possibility the winner of this game becomes the #1 team in the country.
Yeah.
But there's also the possibility the loser gets a rematch. Remember, there are no more divisions in the Big Ten, so just the top 2 teams. It's possible we'll be seeing the Big Ten championship game about 6-7 weeks early in this matchup Saturday evening.